Hey guys, what's going on? It's Empirant here. Just wanted to go over a quick thing today that I feel like has probably happened to all of us. So, just wanted to go over today what to do when your villagers do the thing that they love to do, which is kill an extra sheep that you really don't want them to. Like while you're bringing in a boar, or even while you're going to other sheep. So, something like this. So we got one boar in, but we also had a vill go and kill a sheep. So now, what do we do? What's the most efficient way to take this food? Do we put everybody on the boar, take all the boar food, then go to whatever's left of the goat? Do we send everybody over to the goat, take all of that food, then send them to the sheep? Do we split like 2 vills to the sheep, everybody on the boar? Does it even matter? But that's what I'm going to look into today. Try and figure out the best answer to how to most efficiently take food out of the TC when you've got multiple animals rotting. Okay, so in order to try and answer this question, I designed this little custom scenario here. So we have a deer, a sheep, and a boar. We're going to kill 2 at a time, and in the last test 3 at a time, and just try and see exactly which ones give us the most food, which ones give us the least food. So my initial thoughts before this is that you should always be focusing on whatever decays fastest in order to minimize decay, which sounds reasonable at first. So I kind of figured, if you kill like a sheep and a boar, you should always put everybody on the boar first, and then you can go to the sheep afterwards. But that way you eat the thing decaying the fastest, and you should save the most. That's at least what I thought beforehand. However, it turns out this wasn't actually correct. So I ran quite a few tests on this. Actually did, let me pull this up here. So I actually did about 40 or so tests, maybe a little less, doing every single possible, okay, not every possible combination, but doing like all on deer, then to sheep, all on sheep, then to the deer, and then various methods of splitting them up. I did the same thing for deer and boar, and the same thing for sheep and boar, and then I even did some tests where you kill all 3 at the same time. And then we'll get to these tests in just a second down here. But actually what the numbers showed is that you always want to eat the thing that will be gone the quickest. So if you're doing deer and sheep, your villagers gather the deer much faster than the sheep, and the deer doesn't have that much more food than the sheep on it. So you always want to go to the deer first, then the sheep. The thing that you're looking to do is you're trying to minimize the amount of time that 2 animals are rotting on the field at the same time. So boar, you really start to notice it some too. So if you have boar and deer, you always want to go deer first, then boar. You can see it's not the biggest difference, but going on the deer first gave us not about 7 to 9 more food than going on the boar first, then the deer. So 7 to 9 more food's not a whole lot, but it can be the difference between having to do an extra force drop or so when you're trying to click up to feudal age, or even just running out of food from one animal and not quite having enough food still to click up or make your next villager where you're going. So it's not a huge deal, but if there's a more efficient way to do it, you might as well try for the more efficient way, right? So just to show real quick some of my, basically what I was doing here. So if we start the game here, trying to kill the sheep, or kill the deer right away, just because it's kind of hard to make it actually run under the town center. And then I would split to whatever we're doing. So if we're doing deer first and then boar, I'd go to the deer and then the boar. So there is a little bit of, it's not a perfect drop off. Like it's hard to get the deer under the TC exactly from the start here. Obviously, you have to kill the deer first before it runs away. Get that out of the way. Sorry about that. And then once the deer is dead, then you kill the boars. So there's a little rot on the deer, stuff like that. It's not a perfect test, but it did pretty consistently show you always want to eat the smaller things. So if we go for the sheep and the boar test, which is one I definitely thought you should be eating the boar first on. It turns out you always want to eat the sheep first, then go to the boar in order to get the most food. And if we look at our table, you can see that stays true. So going from the boar to the sheep is going to lose you about just like 6 to 8 food. So again, not a lot. This isn't going to ruin you or anything like that, but it's still always the best idea to take the sheep before the boar. And you can actually see on all of these that splitting up between the two tended to be the worst. So going splitting between sheep and deer netted you less food no matter how you split, compared to taking all sheep then the deer, or the best one, all the deer then the sheep. Same with the boar. Generally splitting between the two, 3 on deer, 4 on boar, 2 on deer, 5 on boar, 5 on deer, 2 on boar, is going to get you less than going all deer on boar. You can see a little difference here. The more you had on the deer, it actually started to do better than boar than deer, which tells you how bad of an idea it is to take just the boar first. And same down here, splitting splitting was generally worse. You can see going more on the sheep is always better than going all on the boar. So even 5 on sheep was enough to eat the sheep quickly, enough to reduce the time 2 animals were decaying. So it actually did work out better than boar than sheep. But I still just generally wouldn't suggest splitting vills. Just always try and take from whatever is going to be gone the fastest. Again, so you can minimize how many animals are decaying at one time. All right, and you can see here, if you somehow kill all 3, if you kill a deer, sheep, and a boar at the same time, the exact same principle basically applies. It doesn't really matter if you go sheep, deer, then boar, or deer, sheep, then boar. At least in my test, it didn't make a difference. But you can see both of them were about a 15 to 17 or 18 food difference compared to starting with the boar. So you just never want to start with the boar, basically. This is, of course, assuming they all have pretty much full food when you start. All right, and then one last test that I did was just to really see just how much this applies in an extreme situation. So I basically started with all 4 sheep, 4 of your starting sheep, and 6 villagers, so the amount that you would normally start collecting those. And I tested if we kill all 4 sheep at the exact same time, what is the best way to take food from them. So if what we just talked about applies, which it should, the best way to do it will be to put all your villagers on 1 sheep and then move through them in order to minimize the time multiple animals are rotting, as opposed to splitting your vills between all of them and having like 2 vills on 2 of them and 1 vill on the other 2. Even though that might seem like the best because you're getting food more spread out. So if we just to show how we did the test here, so we're going to kill them all, but then send to 1 sheep. And then I'm not going to make you sit through the whole test. But then the other one was basically spreading the vills out so that we had some on each one. And this was how I did the other test. And then as soon as they were done with 1 sheep, they would just go to the next one in line. So by the end, you had all of them on 1 sheep. But doing it this way and doing it the other way, you can see on our results here that killing all 4 sheep and then taking them 1 at a time got us about 20 more resources, more than 20 resources, than killing all 4 sheep and then taking them 1 at a time. So this is an extreme scenario. I don't expect it'd be some really bad luck if your villagers manage to kill 4 sheep at the same time. But just to show the same principle, you want to minimize rot as much as you can, minimize multiple animals rotting at once. Even though boar rot faster than sheep, stuff like that, don't worry about it. Just always go for whatever you will eat the fastest, because then there's the total amount of rot is less. if there's not 2 rotting at once. So just wanted to go over that real quick, guys. Like I said, it's not going to be the end of the world if you don't follow this all the time. It's a pretty small difference, but sometimes that little bit of food can make the difference between having to force drop food in order to go up or being able to just smoothly go up. We've all been there where we're like 2 food short from making the next vill, or 2 food short from being able to click feudal, anything like that. So hope this helps you. That's all from me today, guys. I hope to see you in the stream sometime at twitch.tv/Empyrant. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe down below. And otherwise, I hope you all have a good day. Hope to see you in the stream sometime. Have a good one.